Hello, hello, hello. Wherever you are on this fabulous planet, I hope you are having a great day wherever you're at. I want to talk about the NBA, more than likely first ballot Hall of Famer. He's playing with the Los Angeles Lakers. My topic is Russell Westbrook, a.k.a. Russell Westbrook. But I'm going to show him respect and call him Mr. Russell Westbrook. As you all know, here in 2021, Mr. Westbrook is a player on the famous, well-renowned Los Angeles Lakers. But there have been many complaints ran all over the place about trade Westbrook, do this to Westbrook, do that. All of the Lakers' blames, it seemed like it's falling on him. Now, come on, let's be realistic. One player cannot lose a game. Now, one player, they can lose a game if the other team is beating you by 1 point and they missed a shot or whatever. Then that player cost you the game. But when you have at least 9-point double digits lead, or 9 games at least with double digits lead, and you squander the lead, it's not on that one player. It's the team that lost the game. And let's think about this for a moment. Many famous television analysts have said the reason the Lakers have been losing those myriad of games is because they're old. They don't have the stamina to hold up the entire 48 minutes of a basketball game. But I see that as a coaching flaw. If the coach knows you have many players over the age of 32, then you should do all you can to build up their stamina. You should tell them what type of foods they should eat at least twice a day. You should be having a exercise program, like riding your bike. I'm just giving a simple example. Running on a treadmill for an hour a day. Riding the stationary bike an hour a day. Go skating on a skating ring for 1 hour a day. The coach has the responsibility to implement strategies to build up their stamina for their advanced basketball years. Because you know, if you're like 32 in the basketball years, that's the equivalent of being 65 in the real world. And sports in general, if you're in your like 32, 33, 34, in all team sports, that's like you're a senior citizen. But getting back to what I'm saying, the people, they blame Westbrook for the losses. Yes, he make bonehead plays. He a poor free throw shooter. It's terrible. If you're a point guard and you shooting below 70%, that's terrible for a point guard. He is a terrible 3-point shooter. He's below 35%. He is a terrible 2-point shooter. Less than 45% for that. But one thing he is he know how to drive to the hoop. But unfortunately for him, from what I've been hearing from many commentators, he's been missing a lot of his dunks. But you cannot blame Russell Westbrook for the Lakers' ailment. And here's why. I'm going to give some real world examples. If you was a teenager and your girlfriend was a slut, if you were male, if you're a female, and you know that boyfriend you chose loves to sleep around, then when you obtain that slut, you obtain that womanizer boyfriend, when they cheat, can you really get upset with them? Because they being exactly who they are. You chose to take on that person. Like the Lakers, they chose to take on Russell Westbrook. And one thing that sticks in my mind clearly about the NBA, I remember several years ago when Charles Barkley was still a player in the NBA, he said this, which is true. Realistically, I think the NBA teams have less than 15, a max of 15 players. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the comment section. There's about 30 teams. You multiply, let me get my calculator out. I will multiply 15 times 30. That's roughly 450 players. Charles Barkley said the NBA is basically like a fraternity. It's a fraternity for team sports. Football has roughly slightly over 50 players, so it's hard to be a family, a fraternity with 50 players. You go to two teams, you have like 100 men. That's hard to make a family. But in NBA, two teams is like 30 players. That's still a small little family, a fraternity. Baseball, I'm not an advocate. I don't know much about baseball, but I know it definitely probably have over 20 players. Hockey, a number of players. The NBA, from what I know, I could be wrong, has only about 15 players per team. And when I did my math out of 30 teams, I know it could be more, it could be less teams, but with just 30 teams, that's only 450 players. Just Google has far more employees than that. Amazon has far more employees than that. Many large companies have more than 450 players. So the NBA, like Charles Barkley said, is like a fraternity or family. When in that fraternity, you know your brothers. You know their ins and you know their outs. You know their strengths and you know their weaknesses. If it's a family, you know their ins and outs and strength and weakness. Here's another example. We all have had people in our family who love to steal. You turn around, they'll steal your coat if you gave them the chance. So, if you decide to take your cousin who's loved to steal and say, spend a week with me until you get back on your feet. If something disappeared in your house, you cannot blame your cousin because you know your cousin was a thief. That's the same scenario with Russell Westbrook. Why talk about trading him? Why talk about benching him? Why all these complaints? Because the fraternity, like LeBron James and all the other players, like he's the prominent one who won at Russell Westbrook from what I heard. You know what he's like. You've heard other players and the family talk about him. Every NBA player knows the in and out of other NBA players, especially when they are a star player. And he is, for better or worse, a star player thanks to his consecutive years of making those triple doubles. So you know he's going to be in the Hall of Fame just from that. So no one should be complaining about trading Russell Westbrook or complaining about him. The coach should be dealing with himself and say, look, we know his faults, we know his weakness. How can we best utilize this person? We know he likes to drive, but he may be using a step because he's missing some of them dunks. He's only 6'3". In a normal world, 6'3" is tall. In the NBA, 6'3" is like my height, which is 5'6". It's short in the NBA. So, in hindsight, no one, especially the Lakers. Now, I guess the commentators had complained because they didn't have nothing to do with the trade for Westbrook. So, like all the analysts were crying about trade Westbrook, this to Westbrook. Maybe they do have some right to complain because they didn't say, come on. Or, for instance, you know when you had that thieving cousin and they steal something, other family members will complain to you for letting him or her in the house in the first place. Yeah, I think that's what the commentators complaining about. They complaining about the Lakers for inviting him into the house in the first place. when you had the slut girlfriend or the womanizing boyfriend. The people on the outside, the other family members, the other friends, they be telling you, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's wrong to hook up with that girl. It's wrong to hook up with that young man because they got bad qualities. But the Lakers is like the girl who chose the womanizing man. The Lakers is the family member who let the thief come in the house. The Lakers is the young male who decided to get the slut. The commentators and everybody else, the other family members or the people or your friends saying you did wrong. Yeah, people are always gonna say you did wrong. So I guess I can't knock the commentators that much. So, but the Lakers, they cannot be complaining. They cannot be scratching their heads because from the top executive to the bottom, they knew what Westbrook was. So that's all I got to say, my good people. You got any comments about Mr. Russell Westbrook? Leave it in the comments section. I welcome all replies, good and bad. Till the next time, internet family, sports family, peace.